And welcome to the Aaron Katzman Show. I'm your host, Aaron Katzman, to speak to you about your life, your money, and your investments. And as always, we're coming to you from the spiritual and soon to be financial capital of the world, Jerusalem, Israel. If you like this content, please hit the like button below. If you've not yet done so, please subscribe to both the YouTube channel and to the podcast. And if, believe it or not, you think somebody may find this of some interest, there's actually a share button below that you can click on and share it with them as well. We've got it all taken care of for you, so you can just keep immersing yourself in the brilliant financial information that I spew forth. Today's brilliant financial information is actually based on an article that I came across from Nick Maggiulli, if that's how you pronounce his name. And it's an interesting question. It's called, "Is home equity fake wealth?" Interesting question. So he says, with the surge in U.S. home prices since 2020, Americans have more home equity than ever. In fact, I'm going to add, right, I think it was President Trump who just went out and started speaking about that, how wealthy people are because, you know, their homes are worth $500,000, $600,000. Okay, so back to the article. As Realtor.com reported in September 2025, in the second quarter of 2025, the flow of funds data from the Federal Reserve showed that the total value of owner-occupied real estate rebounded after last quarter's retreat, reaching a record high of $49.3 trillion. Home equity mirrored this trend, also hitting an all-time peak of $35.8 trillion. So he says, due to the high concentration of wealth in the U.S. housing, some have begun to argue that rising real estate values don't represent real wealth. There are always people like that, right? What's a downers? Okay. Kevin Erdman, a scholar at the Mercatus Center, recently released a paper on this topic titled, "We Are Not as Wealthy as We Thought We Were." In the paper, Erdman claims that rising U.S. home values don't translate to tangible wealth changes, but to a regressive transfer of incomes from tenants and new home buyers to existing real estate owners. He argues that home values are going up because of undersupply, not because Americans are getting richer. Okay, Michael Green echoed this statement, but if the home you live in goes from $200,000 to $1 million, you're not wealthy because the replacement home also costs $1 million. You're trapped. You can't sell the house and take the profit because you still need a place to sleep, and the house across the street also costs $1 million. You haven't gained purchasing power. You have simply experienced a revaluation of your cost of living. Okay, so it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting approach, right? That because we all know that, right? I know that, just every now and then I go and see what's in the marketplace. But if you're going to move to a similar type of place that you're currently living in, the price should be similar, right? But this is where I disagree. There are two main places or two main situations, that is, where you actually can book and take to the bank some of that home equity. The first one is, you're young, you can always rent. Just rent, okay? Bank the $1 million that your home is worth and start paying a fraction of that. Invest the rest of the money. In fact, Maggiulli says, in particular, U.S. rents are up 4 times in nominal terms since 1984, while incomes are up about 3.6%. His point is that your income and rent are almost moving up in tandem. So it's like a bonanza. You can just rent, your income will cover it, and then the remaining money you can just go ahead and invest. But even if you don't do that, if you park $1 million into the bank, you will probably be able to, in most cities, create a portfolio where you can generate the income you need to pay rent, at least, and still be able to grow your portfolio. So that, I think, is really, really interesting. He says like this: "While I run numbers to buy $1 million 2-bedroom unit in Jersey City, my total cost comes out to around $8,400 a month. This includes property tax, blah, blah, blah. If I invested I recently signed an 18-month lease for a 2-bedroom unit in Jersey City for $4,650 a month. If I invested the difference for 30 years while earning 5% nominal annual returns and experiencing 3% annual rate increases, I'd end up $600,000 in head in the renting scenario. That's over $500,000 in extra wealth with only 2% real return." Okay, and he goes on and on and on. I'd like to take a slightly different approach. So renting is totally legitimate, The other thing, which is even more legitimate, and I mentioned this in the past, is that one of the most frequent conversations I'm now having with clients or in consultations is people who are considering assisted living facilities where they have to figure out a way to pay for them. Oftentimes here in Israel, they require a down payment and then a monthly payment along the way. Some of the down payment you lose, depends on the model. But for those people, I guess it's similar to renting, right? Because that's ultimately sort of what they're doing, sort of higher cost renting. But it's huge. They have now money from their home, which they can go ahead and transfer and continue on their nice living situation, right? If they had no home equity, like what they said, or you don't have any money, it's just a revaluation of your wealth from one thing to the other, whatever highfalutin stuff they were talking about. It's not really true because let's say, you're past retirement age and it's becoming hard for you to live on your own and you're contemplating assisted living. Well, you can take your home equity, use it for that down payment, use it to fund the rent, and still have money left over. Sounds like a pretty good situation. This is why, I'm just going to interject, I'm not such a big fan of the financial media because the financial media writes things, but they never sit across some living, breathing clients like we do. And some things they talk about, well, theoretically, that's interesting, right? And in practice, yes, there is tremendous value to the increased home equity that you now have. Maybe, like I said, you can rent, or later on where it gets really important, where your money actually serves a real purpose as opposed to just, saying I've got X, Y, and Z net worth. But when your net worth becomes real in the fact that you need it to live off of potentially, to supplement, pension or Social Security or whatever you've got coming in, having larger amounts of home equity that you had in the past is vitally important because it will allow you to fund the rest of your life. They don't talk about that. But like I say, almost every single conversation that I have now, it talks about that or is trying to figure out a way to get to that situation. So yes, home equity is very, very important. Either you can cash out and rent, or you can use it down the road, maybe not so far down the road, but in retirement when you're choosing whether you can stay, when you're no longer maybe able to stay in your home, you can use it for assisted living. Yes, that's pretty important. Correct. If you're just going to trade one home for another home in the same neighborhood, in the same kind of home, correct. It doesn't make much of a difference if you've got it because you're just going to have to buy something for the same price, so you don't really gain. But in many other facets of finances, financial facets, say that fast 10 times, financial facets, fast. It makes a huge difference how much home equity you have, as it makes a difference in how much net worth you totally have at the end of the day, because those are all going to be used. All those monies are going to be used for a way to ultimately allow you to achieve your goals and needs, which may very well entail living somewhere else, which could be a little bit more costly. But now, thanks to the fact that your value of your home is worth a lot more, you actually have a bigger pie, right? You've got more money to use to fund your retirement. So that's the answer to the question about home equity. Yes, it is fantastic that you have more home equity, in a nutshell. I know it took me a little bit of time to say that, but I've got to fill up 10 minutes, as they say. No, I'm kidding. But yes, the answer is yes. There are plenty of ways and reasons that having home equity and more of it than you had 10 years ago or 8 years ago or 7 years ago is vitally important. You've been tuning in to the Aaron Katzman Show. We speak about your life, your money, and your investments. If you like this content, please hit the like button below. If you've not yet done so, please go ahead and subscribe to both the YouTube channel and to the podcast. And if you think somebody may find this of interest, why don't you go ahead and click the share button and share it with them as well. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll speak to you soon.